Hello there, and welcome to the calm space of Lumiverse NL, a quiet space where science drifts like a lullaby, and the world slows down just enough for wonder to bloom. Tonight, we wander into a hidden realm, the kingdom of mushrooms, a world so ancient, so alive, and yet so often unseen. Mushrooms are not plants, nor are they animals. They breathe oxygen, exhale carbon dioxide, and live by dissolving what has fallen. The quiet recyclers of the earth. In the language of biology, they belong to their own domain, fungi. But in the language of silence, they are the heartbeat of the forest. Everywhere you walk, beneath leaves, beneath roots, beneath the soil itself, lives an invisible web of life. It is not made of roots or stone, but of living threads called mycelium, stretching for miles through the dark. Through these threads, the earth whispers to itself. Trees share nutrients. Dead matter becomes food again. The forest, through fungi, remembers how to breathe. Scientists believe that fungi appeared on Earth over 1 billion years ago, long before the first trees or flowers. They were the pioneers of the land, breaking down rock into soil, creating the first foundation where green life could grow. Without them, forests would never have been born. And without forests, neither would we. What makes fungi so mysterious is their dual nature. They are both creators and destroyers, healers and toxins, visible and invisible. Some shimmer softly in the dark, glowing with bioluminescent light. Others remain hidden for centuries beneath the ground, only to rise overnight after a rain. Their world moves at the pace of patience, silent, slow, and eternal. To study them is to step beyond the limits of human time. A single drop of water falling onto a decaying log might take decades to feed the mycelium beneath. And yet, that same network could stretch across entire forests, connecting thousands of trees into one living system. Some scientists even call it the Wood Wide Web, nature's own internet, built from life instead of light. As we begin this journey, let yourself imagine walking through a misty forest after rain. The air is cool. The ground breathes softly. Around you, mushrooms rise like quiet messengers from another world. Some red as embers, some pale as bone, others translucent like glass. You kneel and realize they are not just growing from the soil. They are the soil, the bridge between what lives and what has lived before. In their silence lies a story of endurance. Fungi have survived every extinction, adapted to every climate, and found ways to live in darkness, in light, and even in the void of space. They remind us that life does not always shout. Sometimes it simply waits. So tonight, as the music hums softly beneath your thoughts, let the world of mushrooms open before you. Let it teach you how creation hides inside decay, how endings become beginnings, and how even the smallest thread can carry the memory of the entire earth. Because to understand fungi is to feel the quiet intelligence of nature itself. The story begins here, in the breath between soil and sky, where silence grows. To understand mushrooms, we must first understand what makes them so different, what places them between worlds. They are not like plants, who draw energy from the sun, nor like animals, who consume and move. Fungi occupy the quiet middle ground between both, breathing like us, feeding like the forest itself. At the microscopic level, the secret lies in their cells. Plant walls are made of cellulose, soft, fibrous, and bright with chlorophyll. But fungi are built from chitin, the same resilient material that gives insects and crustaceans their shells. It is strong yet flexible, a perfect armor for life lived in shadow and decay. This single detail, chitin instead of cellulose, changes everything. It makes fungi closer to animals than to plants, a truth that still surprises even those who study them. When you breathe in, the oxygen filling your lungs is shared with them. Fungi inhale oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide, just like we do. They live by transformation, taking what has fallen, what seems finished, and turning it into food again. Every piece of wood that softens, every leaf that fades, owes its quiet disappearance to fungi's patient chemistry. They are the alchemists of decay, turning death back into life, grain by grain, cell by cell. Under the forest floor, this process unfolds in silence. A log that seems dead is actually alive with filaments, thin white threads of mycelium spreading through the wood. They release enzymes that dissolve the fibers, absorbing nutrients in a slow feast that can last years. If you could shrink yourself small enough to walk through that hidden labyrinth, you would see lightless rivers flowing through tunnels of cellulose, a secret metabolism humming beneath the world we know. And when the time is right, when humidity, temperature, and moonlight align, the mycelium sends up its fruit, the mushroom. This is the visible part, the bloom of an underground being lasting only days before fading again into the soil. To call the mushroom a plant is like calling a wave the ocean. It is only a glimpse, a passing expression of something far older, deeper, and unseen. Scientists have found that some fungal networks are thousands of years old, still alive and expanding. Each thread of mycelium carries memory, the record of nutrients passed, of storms survived, of trees once connected. It is a map of resilience written in living fiber. Some species can even merge with the roots of plants, forming mycorrhizal relationships, a partnership so intimate that the two lives blur together. Through these connections, fungi share water, minerals, and information. A dying tree might send its last sugar to a seedling nearby through fungal threads, a final act of generosity carried by the quiet messengers of the soil. When you walk through a forest, every step disturbs an ancient communication network. You might not hear it, but beneath your feet, signals pulse through the ground. Electrical impulses, chemical messages, slow waves of life, all moving through the dark in perfect coordination. It is the forest thinking in silence, and fungi are its neurons. In this sense, the earth itself behaves like a mind, complex, adaptive, and aware of balance. And at its heart, fungi are the medium of that awareness, turning decay into knowledge and silence into song. So the next time you see a mushroom rising from a fallen log, remember, it is not the beginning of life nor the end, but the continuation, a momentary form in a story without pause. From the smallest mold to the vastest network underground, fungi remind us that everything changes, but nothing truly disappears. Their story is the story of connection, and in the next part, that connection begins to glow. When night falls, the forest comes alive in ways our eyes rarely see. Hidden beneath moss and fallen leaves, certain mushrooms begin to glow. Soft, green, and dreamlike, like lanterns left behind by the stars. This quiet light is called bioluminescence, a natural glow born from chemistry rather than fire. It happens when an enzyme called luciferase reacts with a molecule known as luciferin, releasing a faint green or blue light. It is the same family of reactions that gives fireflies their flicker and makes deep-sea creatures shimmer in the dark. But unlike the flashes of insects, the glow of fungi is calm, steady, and patient. A light that never rushes. More than 70 known species of mushrooms shine this way. Some glow from their caps, others from their stems, and a few even light up the wood they grow upon, turning fallen trees into quiet rivers of light. In old forests, travelers once called it foxfire, the fire of the fairies, believing it to be magic that guided spirits through the night. And in a way, it is magic, the kind that comes not from myths, but from the deep logic of nature. Scientists still debate the purpose of this glow. Some believe it attracts insects who carry spores farther into the forest. Others think it might warn predators to stay away or simply protect the mushroom from harm. Whatever its reason, the result is the same. The forest becomes a constellation, and life, even in decay, refuses to disappear quietly. To see one in person is to glimpse living light born from death. Beneath your feet, the fallen wood decays, but in that decay, something shines. It is as though the earth remembers how to glow from within. A language of light older than the stars above, written not in fire, but in life. In Japan, glowing mushrooms known as mycelium chlorophyll emerge only on humid summer nights, casting their light on forest floors so faintly that cameras struggle to see what the eyes can feel. A hush of emerald radiance, pulsing softly like breath. In Brazil, Neonothopanus gardneri blooms on rotting palm trunks, bright enough to be seen from meters away. And in the dark woods of Southeast Asia, children once played among glowing roots, believing the light to be the souls of ancestors resting in peace. What's extraordinary is how this glow connects everything: chemistry, biology, and myth. A reminder that science and wonder are not opposites, but reflections of the same truth. For even in the darkest soil, fungi find a way to make light. If you close your eyes and imagine the forest at night, you might see the faint glimmer of mushrooms beneath the ferns. A soft glow, like moonlight spilled upon the earth. It is not asked to be noticed, and yet it shines. Like thought itself, like kindness, like memory. It continues, quietly, endlessly. Perhaps that is why we find peace in such images. Because somewhere within us, we recognize the same rhythm, the same silent glow that endures through darkness. And as the forest breathes around you, you begin to realize the light of mushrooms is not just a phenomenon. It is a metaphor, a reminder that even decay can be beautiful, and even endings can glow. Beneath every forest, hidden beneath roots, stones, and fallen leaves lies one of the most extraordinary living systems on Earth, the mycelium network. It is invisible to the eye, yet vast beyond measure, weaving through the soil like veins through flesh. To walk through a forest is to step above a living web of threads that quietly sustains the world. Each filament of mycelium, called a hypha, is thinner than a strand of hair. Yet together, these filaments can span for miles, linking thousands of trees into a single organism. Through them, water flows, minerals move, and information passes in pulses too faint for us to feel. This network does not belong to one species alone. It is shared, communal, and ancient, a system that transcends individuality. Scientists call this vast living web the Wood Wide Web, the underground internet of nature. Through it, trees communicate, share resources, and even warn each other of danger. If one tree suffers drought, others nearby may send water through the fungal threads to ease its thirst. If one is attacked by insects, it can release chemical signals through the network, triggering defenses in its neighbors. It is cooperation written into the soil, a community powered by fungi, the true architects of connection. To understand how this works, imagine a forest not as a collection of separate trees, but as a single living body. The mycelium are its nerves, carrying messages in silence. The trees are its organs, sharing breath and sustenance. What we see above ground, trunks, leaves, and sunlight, is only half of the story. Below, in the darkness, is an entire world of exchange, negotiation, and memory. There is evidence that mother trees, the oldest and largest, nurture their young through this network. They send sugars and nutrients to seedlings shaded by the canopy, helping them survive the struggle for light. Even as a mother tree begins to die, she passes her reserves into the fungal web, feeding the next generation. It is a quiet inheritance, a legacy written not in words, but in carbon and water. The mycelium itself is alive in ways we are only beginning to comprehend. It senses changes in its environment, moisture, vibration, temperature, and responds with precision. When a part of the network is damaged, signals ripple through the threads, reorganizing growth patterns to adapt. Some studies suggest that mycelial networks learn, remembering where nutrients were found and redirecting their energy accordingly. In their slow and silent logic, fungi show something that resembles intelligence, a distributed awareness spread across millions of living filaments. Beneath your feet, there could be a single organism that spans mountains, older than civilizations. One such being exists in Oregon, Armillaria ostoii, the honey fungus, which covers nearly 4 square miles and may be thousands of years old. Every mushroom that rises there is just a tiny fruit of this immense creature, the visible edge of a being that sleeps beneath the forest, dreaming in wood and soil. It is both humbling and awe-inspiring to realize that the largest life form on Earth is neither a whale nor a tree, but a mushroom. The mycelium is the hidden circulatory system of the planet. It connects the death of one tree to the birth of another, recycling the nutrients that sustain entire ecosystems. It keeps forests alive, balances carbon in the soil, and even influences how rainwater moves through the ground. Every raindrop that falls, every leaf that decays becomes part of its quiet economy. When we speak of nature as intelligent, this is what we mean. Not thought as we know it, not language or logic, but a patterned consciousness expressed in relationships. Through fungi, the earth does not merely survive, it remembers. It remembers where the sun last touched, where the rivers once flowed, and where the roots of future forest will grow. To stand in a forest and breathe is to be part of that memory. A single breath in a cycle that began before humanity and will continue long after. The mycelium moves beneath us like the unseen tide of life, connecting everything that has ever lived and everything that will. In a world obsessed with noise, fungi are the masters of quiet connection. They show us that the strength of life does not always come from speed or force, but from networks, patience, and the steady act of sharing. So the next time you step into a forest, pause for a moment. Feel the ground breathe beneath your feet. You are walking not on dirt, but on the living fabric of time itself. If you could lift the surface of the forest like a curtain, you would see something astonishing. An organism so immense that it blurs the line between the individual and the planet itself. Beneath the pine trees of Oregon's Blue Mountains lives the largest living organism on Earth. A single fungal network known as Armillaria ostoii, or the honey fungus. At first glance, it looks like an ordinary forest, green, peaceful, and ancient. But below the soil, all those trees are connected by one vast body of mycelium, stretching over 4 square miles and weighing hundreds of tons. Every mushroom that appears above ground is only a tiny fraction of it. A fruit, a whisper, a brief signal from a being that mostly remains hidden. Scientists estimate that this single organism may be thousands of years old, possibly older than human civilization itself. To imagine its scale is almost impossible. Picture a creature that sleeps under mountains, weaving itself through roots and rocks, growing so slowly that centuries feel like seconds. Its body is made not of flesh or bone, but of light, thread-like cells, exploring the world one filament at a time. And when it chooses to appear, when conditions are just right, it sends up mushrooms like signals, reminding us that the Earth itself is alive. When scientists first mapped this network, they were stunned. The forest that seemed full of separate trees was in fact one vast living web, a single consciousness spread across space and time. To walk through it was not to move among individuals, but to walk within a single being, an organism with many mouths, many hands, and one shared pulse beneath the soil. Each year, the honey fungus expands its reach, digesting fallen wood and returning it to the cycle of life. Where it passes, the soil becomes rich, filled with nutrients for new growth. It is both destroyer and creator, as all great forces in nature are. Its filaments consume what has died, yet from that destruction, forests rise renewed. It is the planet's great recycler, quietly maintaining balance through patience and persistence. This living giant also speaks to something deeper, an idea that individuality is an illusion. In the human world, we separate ourselves from one another, each life defined by its own boundary. But in the world of fungi, boundaries dissolve. Each thread merges with the next until it becomes impossible to say where one life ends and another begins. In that merging, the forest thrives. Perhaps that is the quiet truth fungi have always known. Connection is survival. Standing among the pines of Oregon, knowing that the same organism touches every root around you, changes how you see life. You realize that the forest floor beneath your feet is not passive earth. It is a living consciousness, moving at a slower rhythm than ours. Each root, each leaf, each drop of dew belongs to a single breathing entity. It is a reminder that the planet itself behaves like one vast organism, and that fungi are its connective tissue, the threads that hold existence together. Some researchers have begun to wonder whether the mycelium might represent a form of planetary intelligence. Not intelligence as in language or emotion, but a distributed awareness, a system that balances itself, responds to change, and preserves life over millennia. If so, then Armillaria ostoii is not just a mushroom. It is a fragment of the Earth's own mind, a neural network of nature that predates us all. When you look at a single mushroom, remember that it is only a fleeting gesture from something colossal, a whisper from a sleeping giant beneath the ground. Its body hums in silence, its patience measured not in days or years, but in centuries. While we rush through moments, it weaves time itself, and somewhere in that slowness lies wisdom. The wisdom of knowing that decay is not loss, that connection is strength, and that the truest forms of life are often the ones we cannot see. So if you ever find yourself walking through a quiet forest, stop for a moment. Listen, not with your ears, but with your awareness. Beneath your feet, the largest being on the planet is breathing, and in that breath, you might feel your own, woven into the same rhythm that has sustained this world for millions of years. The idea that fungi could communicate once sounded like science fiction. But today, scientists know that beneath our feet, threads of mycelium pulse with electrical signals. Faint, rhythmic flashes of life traveling through the soil like whispers in the dark. Each pulse is microscopic, lasting only fractions of a second. Yet together, they form patterns, surges, pauses, waves, that look surprisingly similar to the firing of neurons in a brain. It is as if the Earth itself has a nervous system, and fungi are its synapses, carrying information across vast distances at the slow heartbeat of nature. In laboratories, researchers have placed electrodes into living mycelium and watched the signals dance. They discovered that these electrical impulses change depending on what happens in the environment. When food sources appear, the pulses quicken. When the mycelium meets an obstacle, the pattern shifts. Even more intriguingly, these signals can resemble words, sequences of activity that may represent different types of information. It's not language as we know it, but it is communication, a biological Morse code connecting roots, leaves, and soil. Imagine a forest after rain. Water seeps into the ground, waking dormant filaments. The mycelium begins to hum faintly, sending ripples of current through the underground web. A nearby tree, thirsty from the dry season, draws that water upward, while another tree, shaded and weak, receives nutrients sent through the fungal threads. All of this happens in silence, invisible and constant. The forest does not speak with sound. It speaks through voltage. To call it intelligence might seem poetic, but in truth, it challenges how we define intelligence itself. Do we measure thought only in words and logic, or also in the flow of energy and response? If fungi can sense, remember, and respond, perhaps they embody a slower, more patient kind of thinking. a form of awareness woven into the living fabric of the earth. Some researchers describe the mycelial network as a biological internet, a system through which trees exchange sugars, minerals, and even warning signals. When a spruce is attacked by beetles, its distress can spread through the fungi to neighboring trees, triggering the release of defensive chemicals before the insects even arrive. Other plants, deprived of sunlight, receive carbon from those that stand in the sun. This is not competition. It is cooperation. It is nature's way of keeping balance. What's remarkable is that these exchanges follow logic. Networks reroute when damaged, prioritize vital pathways, and even adjust their flow depending on need. This means fungi don't just connect life. They manage it. They optimize, they distribute, and they repair. They are the invisible engineers of ecosystems, turning chaos into structure without ever revealing their hand. Some species of fungi form specialized junctions called hyphal knots, tiny hubs where signals intensify before branching outward. In a way, these are like biological routers, regulating the flow of information across the underground web. The complexity is staggering. Each gram of soil may contain kilometers of these threads, a living architecture as intricate as any digital network we have built. And yet, unlike machines, this one grows, breathes, and heals itself. When we cut a tree, fungi adjust. When the soil dries, they store moisture. When a forest burns, they retreat into spores and wait for the rain. This adaptability, this resilience, is not random. It is intelligence expressed as patience. In the human world, speed defines success. But in the fungal world, survival is measured in stillness. The mycelium listens longer than we ever could. It gathers data not in seconds, but in seasons, learning through repetition, through time, through the slow pulse of existence. There is a lesson hidden here, one that feels almost spiritual, that communication does not always require sound, that intelligence does not always demand urgency, that connection can thrive in silence, and that wisdom can live in something as simple as the hum of soil after rain. When you close your eyes and imagine the forest floor, think of billions of tiny signals flickering through the dark, a secret circuitry that keeps the planet alive. We walk upon it every day, unaware that our every step crosses through living thought. Perhaps, one day, we will learn to listen, not with our ears, but with awareness. And in that listening, we may finally understand what the earth has been saying all along. A message written not in words, but in rhythm. Everything is connected. Everything is alive. Far beyond the edges of the forest, fungi have shown us something that stretches the imagination. The ability to survive in conditions that no other earthly life should endure. When scientists sent spores of certain mushrooms into the vacuum of space, they expected them to die within seconds. Instead, some of them survived. Suspended between planets, untouched by air, shielded only by the delicate walls of their own design. In experiments aboard the International Space Station, spores of fungi like Aspergillus and penicillium endured weeks of cosmic radiation, freezing cold, and the crushing emptiness of the void. When brought back to Earth, many were still alive, capable of germinating as though nothing had happened. It was a revelation, proof that fungi are not only Earth's recyclers, but also cosmic survivors. This discovery opened the door to one of science's most daring ideas, panspermia. The possibility that life could travel between planets on drifting dust or meteorites. If spores can survive the radiation of space, then perhaps the seeds of life are not confined to one world. Perhaps life spreads the way mushrooms do, by releasing clouds of possibility into the unknown, trusting that somewhere, someday, a few will land where the conditions are just right to grow. The thought is humbling, that the same tiny structures rising in a damp forest could carry the spark of life across galaxies. Fungal spores are nearly perfect travelers. Small, aerodynamic, and protected by melanin, the same pigment found in our own skin. Melanin absorbs dangerous radiation and transforms it into chemical energy, acting as a shield and a battery at once. In the silent emptiness of space, that energy might be the difference between life and death. In 2007, a European Space Agency experiment exposed fungal spores to open space for over 500 days. When the samples returned, nearly 2/3 of them remained viable. Even more astonishingly, some species had not just endured, they had adapted. Their cell walls thickened, their pigments darkened, their DNA showed signs of repair. It was as if the fungi had learned from the experience, evolving in real time to survive the cosmos. This has profound implications for the search for life beyond Earth. If fungi can survive in orbit, they could also survive on the surface of Mars, buried in its dusty soil, or hidden beneath the icy crusts of Europa and Enceladus, the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. Wherever there is moisture, even in trace amounts, fungal life could wait, dormant, dreaming, for the moment to awaken. On Earth, we already know that fungi can live in extremes that rival other planets. They thrive in the frozen tundra, the blistering deserts, the depths of nuclear reactors, and the acidic pools of volcanic springs. Their spores drift high into the stratosphere, higher than the cruising altitude of airplanes, and have even been found clinging to the outer hulls of spacecraft. When we think of exploration, we often picture astronauts, ships, and engines of flame. But perhaps the true explorers of the universe are these microscopic travelers, drifting through the dark with no need for ships, maps, or air, only the patience to wait and the instinct to grow when the light returns. Some scientists have even suggested using fungi to help terraform other planets. To transform barren rock into fertile soil, fungi could break down minerals, recycle waste, and even provide oxygen and nutrients for future life. The same way they once prepared Earth for plants 1 billion years ago, they might one day prepare Mars for new beginnings. In this vision of the future, fungi are not just relics of ancient Earth. They are pioneers of the cosmos, the first to arrive, the first to endure, and the foundation for everything that follows. They carry with them the story of resilience, the story of life that refuses to stop at any border, even the edge of the atmosphere itself. And so, as you lie beneath the stars tonight, consider that somewhere out there, drifting unseen, a single fungal spore might be floating, a tiny seed of life, spun from the breath of our planet, searching for a new home among the stars. Perhaps that is what makes the night sky feel so alive. Not just the light of distant suns, but the invisible clouds of living dust that wander between them. Threads of the same story that began here, in the soil beneath our feet. The Earth, it seems, has been sending messages for eons, not through words, but through life itself. And the mushrooms, quietly and patiently, have been its messengers, carrying the memory of this world into the deep silence of the universe. For all their mystery, fungi are not only survivors, they are healers. While most life forms feed on what is alive, fungi thrive on what has been left behind. They consume decay, dismantle waste, and turn the world's endings into beginnings again. It is easy to overlook them, but without fungi, the Earth would be buried under its own history. Mountains of fallen leaves, bones, wood, and time itself. One of the most extraordinary roles fungi play is as nature's recyclers. Their mycelial threads release powerful enzymes that break down materials most other organisms cannot digest. Wood, cellulose, keratin, even petroleum. In doing so, they turn the seemingly indestructible into fertile soil. What we see as rot is actually transformation, a slow choreography that turns death into nourishment. In recent years, scientists have discovered fungi capable of breaking down plastics, the same materials that choke oceans and fill landfills for centuries. One such species, found deep in the Amazon rainforest, can digest polyurethane, a plastic used in everything from furniture to shoes. When placed in sealed chambers with only plastic for food, the fungi thrived, reducing solid waste into soft organic matter within weeks. It was a stunning revelation. Life can eat what humans thought eternal. This discovery gave rise to the field of mycoremediation, the use of fungi to clean polluted soil and water. Certain species can break down oil spills, absorb heavy metals, and neutralize toxic chemicals that poison rivers and farmlands. Their mycelium acts like a sponge and a filter combined, drawing in contaminants and transforming them into harmless compounds. Imagine a forest recovering after an oil spill, where the ground once blackened with sludge. White filaments begin to weave, turning poison into soil, and silence into the slow pulse of renewal. In a few months, seedlings return. Insects follow. Birds sing again. All of it begins with the quiet work of fungi, repairing what we broke without ever asking for recognition. Fungi's gift for healing extends beyond ecosystems. Some species live symbiotically with tree roots, strengthening them against drought, disease, and pollution. These relationships, called mycorrhizae, act like immune systems for forests, detecting imbalance, redistributing resources, and keeping the community in balance. When trees are cut or soil is damaged, the fungi withdraw and the forest weakens. When the fungi thrive, the forest thrives too. It is a partnership older than humanity, one that built the very foundation of life on land. There is a poetic justice in the idea that fungi can undo what humans have done. We created synthetic waste, and they evolved to consume it. We poisoned rivers, and they learned to purify them. They remind us that nature is not our enemy, but a system of balance that constantly tries to correct itself, even after centuries of harm. In cities around the world, researchers are experimenting with mushroom walls and mycelium filters, designed to absorb air pollutants and trap carbon dioxide. Others are developing fungal biofactories that can process industrial waste, turning toxins into usable materials. The more we learn, the clearer it becomes. Fungi are not relics of the forest. They are technologies of life, ancient and adaptive, waiting to be understood. The spiritual lesson is just as profound. Fungi teach us that destruction is not the end, but a step in the process of renewal. In the forest, what falls becomes the foundation for what rises next. Death, decay, and rebirth are not separate. They are phases of the same continuous song. When you walk among fallen leaves, remember, you are walking across the skin of transformation, a living alchemy that turns loss into life. In a world drowning in its own waste, fungi whisper a different story, one of redemption, regeneration, and resilience. They do not protest. They do not compete. They simply continue, dismantling, rebuilding, and balancing. Perhaps that is why they have endured for over 1 billion years. They adapt, they evolve, and they never stop healing the ground beneath us. While we look to machines and miracles for salvation, the answer may already be under our feet, a kingdom of quiet engineers who never stop tending to the earth. If you ever find yourself in despair about what humanity has done to the planet, think of fungi. They are the patient ones, turning plastic into soil, oil into life, and endings into beginnings. In their stillness lies the world's greatest resilience, and in their silence, the earth is learning how to heal itself. Every kingdom of life carries both beauty and danger, and fungi are no exception. While some species bring healing and renewal, others contain poison so potent that even a single bite can end a life. It is a reminder that nature does not separate creation from destruction. Both exist in the same breath, in the same organism, in the same moment of growth. Among the most infamous of these deadly fungi is the death cap mushroom, Amanita phalloides. Its pale green cap looks harmless, even inviting, the kind of mushroom you might find in a fairy tale. Yet beneath that delicate skin lies one of the most lethal toxins known to science: amatoxin. Just half a mushroom can destroy the human liver and kidneys within days. The danger is made worse by its disguise. It resembles edible mushrooms so closely that even experts have been fooled. The death cap has earned its reputation over centuries. From Roman emperors to modern foragers, countless lives have been lost to its deceptive beauty. Its poison works silently, showing no symptoms until it is far too late. By the time nausea begins, the damage has already been done. Hospitals can only offer supportive care. No true antidote exists. Even now, doctors describe it as a slow, elegant killer. But to stop here would be to miss the other half of the story. Because for every deadly fungus, there are hundreds that heal, nourish, or protect. The same kingdom that gives us toxins also gives us penicillin, the first antibiotic. A discovery that changed human history forever. From that one mold, humanity learned that fungi could become allies, their chemistry harnessed not for death, but for life. Mushrooms have long been woven into the fabric of human medicine. The reishi mushroom, revered in Chinese tradition as the mushroom of immortality, was believed to grant longevity and inner peace. The shiitake and maitake mushrooms, found across Asia, are known to strengthen the immune system and fight infection. Modern science has confirmed many of these ancient beliefs, finding compounds that reduce inflammation, fight cancer, and even support brain regeneration. One species, the lion's mane mushroom, has drawn particular attention. Its cascading white spines look like a frozen waterfall, and inside, it carries molecules that can stimulate the growth of nerve cells. Studies in animals and early human trials suggest it may help repair the brain, offering hope for conditions once thought irreversible, like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. Imagine that, a mushroom growing quietly on a fallen tree, holding within it the power to mend the very organ that dreams. The duality of fungi, poison and cure, death and healing, reveals a deeper truth about the natural world. Life does not divide itself into good and evil. It creates balance. The same enzymes that dissolve toxins can also produce medicine. The same structures that kill can inspire treatments that save. It is not morality, but equilibrium. A chemistry of contrast that sustains the planet. And there is another layer to this paradox. Many of the most toxic mushrooms are also the most beautiful. Their colors are bright, their shapes intricate, their symmetry perfect. It is as though nature hides its danger in allure, inviting us to look closer, to admire, and to learn respect. Because in every glowing cap or delicate stalk, there is a message. Beauty is not always safe, and power is not always kind. To enter the fungal kingdom is to enter a world of blurred boundaries between food and poison, medicine and myth, life and decay. It asks for attention, humility, and care. For in the same soil where death lurks, healing waits as well. It is up to us to recognize the difference and to tread carefully among the miracles of the earth. Fungi have existed for over 1 billion years, and in that time, they have perfected the art of chemistry. They produce antibiotics, antivirals, and complex toxins with equal ease. They can destroy the strongest materials or nurture the most fragile life. They are both the scalpel and the scar, cutting away the old to make room for the new. The more we study them, the clearer it becomes that they mirror the very cycles that define existence. Every death feeds a new beginning. Every poison carries within it the potential for healing. The forest, through fungi, reminds us that nothing is wasted, not even suffering. So the next time you see a mushroom glowing softly under the rain or standing alone on a fallen log, remember this paradox, that what can kill can also save, that what destroys can also restore. and that within the quiet chemistry of the soil lies the full spectrum of life itself. From toxin to cure, from darkness to light, and from silence to transformation. Not all mushrooms bring danger. Some bring flavor, aroma, and warmth. For as long as humans have gathered food, fungi have been part of the feast, appearing in soups, on fires, in wines, and even in the stories told after the meal. They are the bridge between earth and table, transforming decay into nourishment, turning the hidden work of soil into the joy of taste. Across centuries and continents, people have learned to recognize the ones that feed rather than harm. Each forest has its treasures: the chanterelle, golden and fragrant; the porcini, earthy and deep; the morel, a honeycombed miracle rising after spring rain. And then there are the curiosities, mushrooms that mimic the very flavors of animals, as if the forest itself had learned how to cook. The lobster mushroom, for example, is bright orange and smells faintly of the sea. When cooked, it tastes like sweet shellfish, its flesh firm and savory, with a richness that feels almost ocean-born. Another, called chicken of the woods, tears apart like cooked poultry, its fibers soft and meaty, its flavor reminiscent of roasted chicken breast. These fungi are proof that nature is a better chef than we are, able to conjure the taste of meat from sunlight, rain, and patience. In many cultures, mushrooms have long been symbols of prosperity and renewal. In Japan, the matsutake is treasured for its spicy aroma, a delicacy that once graced the tables of emperors. In France, truffle hunters roam forests with trained dogs, seeking the rare underground fungi that smell like musk, earth, and thyme. And in the villages of Eastern Europe, families still rise before dawn to fill baskets with wild mushrooms, their knowledge passed down like an inheritance of scent. But fungi are more than food. They are transformers of taste, masters of fermentation, turning sweetness into depth and stillness into celebration. Without them, there would be no bread rising in ovens, no beer foaming in glasses, no wine aging quietly in barrels. It is fungi, in the form of yeast, that turns sugar into spirit, carbon into air, and the ordinary into the extraordinary. Fermentation is, at its core, a conversation between time and transformation. A colony of yeast feeds on sugar and breathes out carbon dioxide, creating the soft rise of dough or the delicate bubbles of champagne. It is life performing chemistry, not in laboratories, but in kitchens and cellars. Each loaf of bread, each glass of wine carries within it the invisible labor of fungi, a partnership that has shaped human culture for thousands of years. Long before humans understood biology, we understood fermentation as magic. Ancient Egyptians baked leavened bread without knowing why it swelled. Monks in medieval Europe brewed ale, believing it to be a divine gift. What they were witnessing was the same miracle that happens in forests. Fungi transforming decay into life, invisibility into creation. The same enzymes that break down wood and leaf litter also turn grapes into wine. The alchemy is identical, only the setting changes. To eat a mushroom or to sip wine born from yeast is to take part in an ancient ritual of renewal. It is to taste the work of organisms that do not need recognition, that simply do what they have always done: dismantle, rebuild, and nourish. They turn death into dinner, silence into flavor, and patience into art. And yet, the story goes deeper. Fungi are not just ingredients, they are storytellers. Their flavors carry the memory of their environment: the soil, the rain, the light. A mushroom that grows near pine trees smells faintly of resin. Another that rises by the sea tastes of salt and wind. Even cultivated mushrooms, the simple white button, the brown cremini, the elegant shiitake, hold the echo of their origins in every bite. Chefs today are rediscovering what ancient foragers always knew: that mushrooms connect us to place. They teach that taste is geography, that flavor is memory, that what we eat is also where we stand. To cook with them is to translate the forest into nourishment, to bring the secret chemistry of the soil into the warmth of human life. In a single meal, we share a dialogue with the earth. We taste its patience, its decay, its rebirth. And in that moment, even if we do not realize it, we are participating in the same quiet cycle that fungi have guided for 1 billion years. When the aroma of mushrooms fills a kitchen, it is not just food being prepared. It is life renewing itself. The forest enters the home. The soil becomes flavor. And what was once hidden beneath the roots rises again as comfort and joy. So tonight, when you break bread or taste wine or savor the scent of a sizzling pan, pause for a moment. The warmth on your tongue began long ago in darkness, in the quiet labor of the fungal kingdom. Through them, we are reminded that nourishment is not only about sustenance, it is about connection, the act of sharing life itself. Long before modern science tried to understand them, mushrooms held a sacred place in the imagination of humankind. Across continents and millennia, they appeared in myths, rituals, and dreams, symbols of mystery, transformation, and the thin line between the earthly and the divine. To ancient peoples, mushrooms seemed to appear from nowhere. One day the ground was bare, and the next, strange shapes emerged overnight. Soft, silent, and almost glowing after rain. No seed, no stem, no flower. They seemed to materialize from the earth itself, like thoughts from the mind of the planet. It is no wonder they became linked to magic, immortality, and other worlds. In Siberia, shamans consumed the bright red and white Amanita muscaria, the so-called fly agaric, whose spotted caps have since become the symbol of fairy tales and enchanted forests. To these shamans, the mushroom was a key, a bridge between worlds, allowing them to enter trance states, communicate with spirits, and travel beyond the physical realm. Their rituals were deeply symbolic. The mushroom represented the union of earth and sky, its red cap the setting sun, its white stem the axis of the world. When they spoke to the ancestors, they said the mushrooms whispered back. Across the ocean, the ancient peoples of Mesoamerica also saw fungi as messengers of the gods. The Aztecs called them Teonanacatl, meaning flesh of the gods. In their sacred ceremonies, these mushrooms were consumed by priests and rulers to open visions, to speak with divine forces, and to understand the hidden harmony of nature. They were not taken for pleasure but for revelation. To eat them was to surrender to the voice of the universe itself. Spanish chroniclers, upon witnessing these rituals in the 16th century, wrote of them in fear and awe. For the participants spoke of seeing music, hearing colors, and feeling their souls dissolve into the heartbeat of creation. What those explorers called heresy was, in truth, humanity's oldest language, the desire to commune with the unseen. Even older echoes of this reverence appear in prehistoric art. Cave paintings in Spain and Algeria, dating back more than 6,000 years, depict human figures holding mushrooms or sprouting them from their bodies. A visual poetry that suggests mushrooms were seen not as food, but as symbols of transformation, perhaps even spiritual rebirth. Every culture found its own way to interpret the enigma. In Norse legend, the red-capped Amanita was said to sprout where the lightning struck, sparks from Thor's hammer seeding the ground with divine fire. In parts of Africa, mushrooms were believed to be the tears of the stars, falling to earth as gifts of renewal. And in Eastern traditions, fungi became symbols of longevity and inner balance, bridges between body and spirit, life and decay, silence and awakening. When we look closer, a pattern emerges. Mushrooms have always been associated with thresholds, the moments where one reality ends and another begins. They grow where light meets dark, where decay meets life, where consciousness meets dream. In a way, they embody the same mystery that science now studies through biology, the unseen connections that bind all things together. Today, we understand that the so-called sacred mushrooms contain compounds like psilocybin, which alter perception by affecting the brain's neural pathways. Modern research has rediscovered what ancient shamans already knew, that these molecules can quiet the ego, dissolve the sense of separation, and allow people to experience profound feelings of unity and renewal. Under careful study, psilocybin has shown promise in treating depression, addiction, and end-of-life anxiety. It seems that even now, the fungi whisper the same truth they spoke to our ancestors, that healing begins when we remember we are part of something larger than ourselves. But the sacredness of mushrooms does not depend on chemistry alone. It lies in their nature, their way of living between worlds. Half in the soil, half in the air, they connect death and life with seamless grace. They do not fight decay, they embrace it, transforming loss into energy. In them, spirituality and science merge, revealing a wisdom that does not belong to any single culture, but to the earth itself. When you see a mushroom after rain, rising from the shadow of fallen leaves, you are witnessing the same miracle that ancient shamans once celebrated. Something that was hidden becomes visible. Something that was gone returns in another form. It is resurrection, transformation, and renewal, all expressed in silence. The myths may differ, but the message is the same, that life is not linear, but circular, that death is not an end, but a doorway, and that the universe, through fungi, keeps reminding us everything is connected, and nothing ever truly disappears. So when the night deepens and the forest breathes, perhaps the mushrooms still remember those old songs, the chants of fire, the prayers of vision, and the sound of human wonder reaching out to the stars. If the sacred mushrooms open doors to other realms, there are others that reveal something just as haunting: the delicate cruelty of survival. In the deep forests of Asia and South America lives a fungus that turns insects into puppets. Its name is cordyceps, and it is one of nature's most chilling masterpieces. It begins with a single spore, a dust-like particle that lands on the exoskeleton of an unsuspecting insect, perhaps an ant climbing a branch or a beetle hiding in the leaf litter. The spore clings to the surface, sensing warmth, sensing life. Then it begins to grow. Invisible threads infiltrate the body, spreading through muscles and tissues, consuming slowly, silently. And when it reaches the brain, something extraordinary happens. It takes control. The insect, still alive, begins to move differently. It abandons its nest, climbs upward, and attaches itself to a leaf or twig, usually at a height perfect for spore dispersal. It is a final, fatal instinct that does not belong to the insect anymore. It belongs to the fungus. The ant grips the stem tightly with its mandibles, a phenomenon biologists call the death grip. Then, the body stills. Out of the back of its head, a slender stalk emerges, growing like a dark finger toward the light. When it matures, the stalk bursts open, releasing thousands of new spores to rain down upon the forest floor below. To watch this process is to witness both horror and perfection. Cordyceps does not kill at random. It is precise, almost surgical. Each species of cordyceps infects only one kind of host. One for ants, another for spiders, another for caterpillars. A relationship refined over millions of years of coevolution. It is parasitism turned into art, efficiency shaped into ritual. For the infected insect, there is no escape. For the forest, there is balance. By keeping insect populations in check, cordyceps maintains the harmony of the ecosystem. Death in this case is not cruelty. It is structure, a grim choreography that prevents any one species from overwhelming the rest. And yet, even in this darkness, humans have found medicine. In the high mountains of Tibet, a related species, Ophiocordyceps sinensis, infects ghost moth larvae instead of ants. Local herders call it yartsa gumbu, the winter worm, summer grass. They have harvested it for centuries, drying it, grinding it, and using it as a tonic for vitality and endurance. Modern research shows that it contains compounds that improve oxygen efficiency and immune function. It is strange but fitting that from a fungus born in death, life can be renewed. Cordyceps has even entered the world of imagination. Writers and filmmakers have used its eerie power as inspiration for stories of infection and apocalypse. But the truth, as always, is more nuanced. In the wild, Cordyceps does not destroy ecosystems. It sustains them. It ensures diversity by enforcing limitation. It is not chaos, but discipline. A slow wisdom written in decay and rebirth. To look at a forest through this lens is to realize that survival is not about kindness, but balance. The same forces that nurture also consume. Life feeds on life, endlessly recycling itself through teeth, roots, and spores. And though we may find it unsettling, there is beauty in that design, because it ensures that nothing, not even death, is wasted. Scientists studying cordyceps have found electrical signals within the infected insects that suggest the fungus communicates with its host's nervous system. It sends chemical commands, mimicking the insect's own brain patterns. To think of a fungus hijacking an animal's body through chemistry is to glimpse an alien intelligence, one that does not think in thoughts, but in molecules. Some researchers even speculate that this biochemical conversation between parasite and host may have influenced evolution itself. By altering behavior, fungi may have guided species to new forms, teaching nature how to adapt through manipulation and resistance. The mind of the forest, it seems, is not a single entity but a network of intentions, each organism shaping the others in an endless dialogue of survival. There's a quiet philosophy hidden in the story of cordyceps, that even in control and loss, life persists. That transformation can be both brutal and necessary, and that the line between creation and destruction is thinner than we imagine. In the forest, nothing acts alone. Even the most horrifying creatures serve a purpose, their existence part of a larger order that keeps the world breathing. Cordyceps is both predator and priest, a reminder that the sacred and the monstrous often grow from the same soil. As you imagine the forest floor tonight, the insects climbing, the spores falling, the cycle turning again, remember that what seems like death is often only a shift of form. In nature, endings are never endings. They are simply the beginning of something new, emerging quietly from the silence, reaching for light through the body of what came before. Not all fungal stories are confined to insects or hidden forest floors. Some have rewritten entire ecosystems, quiet revolutions that change the rhythm of life on Earth. One of the most haunting examples is the tale of Batrachochytrium dendrobatitis, or beady, a microscopic fungus that nearly silenced the voices of frogs around the world. For millions of years, amphibians had flourished, ancient survivors from the time before dinosaurs, creatures that bridged water and land, breathing through both lungs and skin. But in the late 20th century, scientists began to notice something strange. Frogs and salamanders were vanishing. Whole populations disappeared seemingly overnight. At first, it looked like coincidence, pollution here, climate shifts there, until one pattern emerged. Wherever bead appeared, silence followed. Under a microscope, bad looks unremarkable, just a single-celled fungus. Yet its impact was catastrophic. It infects the skin of amphibians, the very organ through which they absorb oxygen and water. The fungus spreads across their bodies like a delicate lacework, blocking their ability to breathe. Slowly, their muscles seize, their hearts stop, and the forests grow quieter. The infection doesn't rage like a fire. It whispers its way across continents, one moist habitat at a time. By the early 2000s, the death toll was staggering. Entire species had been wiped out, many before they were even named. From Australia to Central America, frog songs that had filled night skies for millennia faded into memory. Researchers called it one of the most devastating wildlife epidemics in recorded history. And at the heart of it, a fungus no larger than a grain of dust. BD spreads through water, carried by droplets, rain, or even the feet of migrating birds. It thrives in cool, moist environments, and its spores can survive dormant in soil for months, waiting, patient, timeless. Once it enters a new habitat, it can decimate populations before balance begins to recover. Some amphibians develop resistance, others never return. Even now, decades later, the echoes of that collapse linger in ecosystems where frogs once sang. Yet, as in every fungal story, there is both devastation and adaptation. Some species, like the lowland leopard frog and the American bullfrog, have learned to coexist with BD. They carry it without succumbing, acting as living reservoirs of resilience. Their survival hints at nature's endless capacity to adjust, to bend but not break beneath pressure. In the stillness left by loss, evolution begins its slow and deliberate work. BD forced scientists to rethink what fungi are capable of. We often imagine them as harmless decomposers, quietly breaking down dead matter. But here was a fungus that targeted the living, that could travel across oceans, alter ecosystems, and erase entire evolutionary lineages. It was both terrifying and illuminating, a reminder that fungi hold power beyond comprehension, that they shape life not only through decay, but through control. In the grand design of the planet, nothing acts in isolation. Even destruction has purpose. BD's rampage, though tragic, revealed the fragile web that binds every ecosystem together. Remove the frogs, and insects multiply. Rivers change chemistry. Predators lose their prey, and the chain ripples outward until everything feels the tremor. It is in these collapses that we glimpse the architecture of interdependence, the way one small organism can alter the fate of thousands. Scientists now use what they learned from BD to monitor emerging fungal threats. From bat populations suffering white nose syndrome to coral reefs under microbial siege, each case teaches us the same truth, that fungi are neither good nor evil. They are agents of balance, working without malice, without intention, driven only by the quiet persistence of life itself. And there is another lesson, one that reaches beyond ecology. The story of Bede reminds us that silence is not absence. Even in the quiet after extinction, the earth is listening, adjusting, remembering. Somewhere deep in a rainforest, the next generation of frogs is adapting, their skin changing molecule by molecule, finding ways to coexist with what once destroyed them. Life, as fungi have always shown, is not fragile. It is relentless. So when you stand by a still pond at night and hear no chorus rising from the water, listen closer. The silence you hear is not emptiness, but recovery. The patient recalibration of an ecosystem learning to breathe again. Because in nature, even tragedy is temporary. The balance always returns, carried by unseen threads. BD's story is not just about death. It's about the intelligence of adaptation. Fungi may devastate, but they also teach. They show us the cost of imbalance and the power of renewal. Through them, the earth learns, evolves, and restores itself. Every lost frog, every vanished sound becomes part of that lesson, etched into the planet's quiet memory. And one day, when the rains fall just right, perhaps the songs will return, soft at first, then louder. A reminder that even after darkness, life remembers the tune. Every breath you take carries with it tiny fragments of the hidden kingdom. Invisible, weightless, and ancient, mushroom spores drift through the air like stardust. the microscopic seeds of fungi carried by wind, rain, and even your lungs. They are everywhere, in cities, in forests, over oceans, rising through sunlight and storm alike. Though unseen, they form one of the most abundant living presences on the planet. Each cubic meter of outdoor air can contain thousands of fungal spores. They swirl above fields and mountaintops, carried upward by thermals and cloud currents, traveling hundreds or even thousands of miles before they settle again. They fall with the rain, scatter across leaves, cling to fur and feathers, and land upon the forest floor. Tiny travelers that complete the life cycle of the fungal world. When we breathe, we participate in this circulation. Spores enter and exit our bodies with every inhale and exhale, connecting us to distant ecosystems we may never see. In a sense, we are all part of the respiration of the planet, sharing invisible breath with forests, mountains, and oceans. The air is not empty. It is alive with possibility. Unlike seeds, spores are designed not for size or strength, but for endurance. They are microscopic capsules of DNA, coated with protective walls that resist ultraviolet radiation, dryness, and even the vacuum of space. Some have been found alive after decades of dormancy, waiting patiently in dust, in caves, or frozen within glaciers. When the right conditions return, moisture, warmth, and organic matter, they awaken and grow, weaving their threads back into the world. It is through these spores that fungi achieve their quiet immortality. They spread without roots, without wings, without noise. Each one is a message, a chance, a memory of survival sent into the air. Billions rise from the forest floor every hour, turning the atmosphere into an invisible highway of life. To walk through a forest after rain is to walk through a storm of creation. Spores are also architects of weather. In the upper atmosphere, they can serve as nuclei for cloud formation, tiny surfaces around which water vapor condenses, helping to form droplets that eventually fall as rain. This means fungi, in their own silent way, help write the weather itself. Forests do not only summon clouds through their leaves, they also send fungal spores skyward to call rain home. The earth breathes upward, and the sky answers with water. Some spores are so small they rise far above the clouds, detected even in the stratosphere, more than 20 miles above the ground. There, they float among dust, ice, and volcanic ash, riding global wind patterns that circle the planet. Others cling to insects, birds, or passing animals, hitching rides to new forests, islands, or continents. A single puffball mushroom can release trillions of spores, more than the number of humans who have ever lived. Most will vanish without growing, but a few will land where the conditions are perfect, and from those few, entire networks can emerge again. The life of fungi, then, is an act of faith written in numbers. Each release is a gamble, a promise whispered into the air that somewhere life will continue. It is a strategy of abundance, patience, and trust in the randomness of wind. The forest depends on it. Every patch of moss, every tree root, every decaying leaf owes its renewal to those unseen clouds of spores drifting above. And beyond the poetic lies a scientific marvel. Some fungal spores can survive space travel. Experiments have shown that spores exposed to cosmic radiation and the vacuum of space can remain viable for weeks or months, protected by their own chemistry. It's as if they were designed not only for Earth, but for the cosmic frontier. Tiny seeds capable of seeding life between worlds. In this way, fungi become more than inhabitants of the planet. They are potential emissaries of life itself. In the philosophy of ecology, spores are the purest form of continuity. They are not bound by geography, not limited by time. They connect the soil beneath our feet to the clouds above our heads, the forests of today to the planets of tomorrow. When we look at them through a microscope, we are looking at the most fundamental act of existence: to persist, to spread, to begin again. The next time you see a mushroom releasing a delicate cloud, remember that you are watching the oldest and most enduring expression of life's intent. Each spore is a fragment of eternity, a story with no beginning and no end, carried on the breath of the world. So when you breathe deeply, perhaps part of what fills your lungs is not just air, but memory, the unseen dust of forests, the quiet continuation of every life that came before. And in that breath, you are not separate from nature. You are part of the same endless exhale, the planet dreaming of itself through spores, wind, and time. High above the treetops, where clouds are born and wind carries whispers across continents, fungi continue their unseen work. For in the vast machinery of the atmosphere, spores play a quiet but vital role, one that links the breathing of forests to the falling of rain. We often think of weather as something far removed from biology, a system of air, heat, and water detached from life. But the truth is more intimate. Every drop of rain that falls may carry the signature of something once alive. A seed, a fragment, or a spore drifting from a forest below. In this way, fungi not only inhabit the earth, they help write the sky. Scientists studying clouds have discovered something remarkable. Many of the particles that trigger raindrop formation are biological. Among them are fungal spores, pieces of pollen, bacteria, and bits of organic matter lifted from soil. These microscopic travelers rise into the air through evaporation, wind, and even storms, where they act as nuclei, tiny anchors that water vapor clings to. Without them, much of the atmosphere's moisture would remain suspended, waiting for something solid to begin the process of falling. This invisible contribution is profound. It means that forests are not merely shaped by rainfall. They help create it. The mycelium beneath the soil feeds the trees. The trees release water through their leaves. And the fungi, through their spores, send that water home again from the clouds. It is a loop older than civilization, a planetary conversation between earth and sky. In the Amazon rainforest, scientists call this process biotic pumping. As trees and fungi breathe moisture into the air, they summon clouds that travel inland, spreading rain across thousands of miles. When deforestation breaks this connection, rainfall patterns collapse. It's as though the sky forgets how to return what it once borrowed. And at the heart of this balance, silent and persistent, are fungi. The idea that mushrooms might influence the weather once seemed poetic. Now, it is measurable. In 2015, researchers found that mushroom spores emit electric charges as they are released, helping droplets in the air merge into raindrops more efficiently. In other words, the forest may be generating its own rain through the physics of fungal breath. Think of that. A thunderstorm that begins not with wind, but with the quiet exhalation of a mushroom. It is the earth regulating itself through the chemistry of decay, transforming the forgotten into the fertile. Even far from forests, the traces of this system remain. Spores travel high enough to ride jet streams, crossing oceans, mountain ranges, and deserts. When they eventually fall, they seed clouds over distant lands, a kind of aerial mycelium, stitching the atmosphere into one interconnected system. The rain that falls on a field in Asia may have been summoned by the spores of mushrooms growing in the Amazon. In that sense, the sky itself is global mycelium, a living, moving bridge between continents. But fungi's influence doesn't stop at weather. Their spores also help balance the global carbon and nitrogen cycles. By binding with water droplets and falling back to Earth, they return nutrients to the soil, feeding microbes that sustain plant life. Each raindrop then becomes more than water. It becomes a delivery system of life, carrying with it the DNA of forests, oceans, and earthbound decay. The poetry of this process lies in its symmetry. The sky lifts what the earth exhales, and the earth absorbs what the sky gives back. It is respiration on a planetary scale, a cycle that turns stillness into storm. and silence into song. When we talk about the lungs of the earth, we usually mean the trees. But in truth, the lungs are shared. Forests inhale and exhale through fungal networks, and those same networks send their breath into the atmosphere as spores. Together, they maintain the pulse of the biosphere, a slow rhythm of release and return that makes the planet habitable. To realize this is to see the planet not as separate parts, but as a single organism breathing in unison. Rain, soil, cloud, and root are not different systems. They are one continuous loop of transformation, each depending on the others for balance. If you've ever walked through a misty forest and felt the air dense with life, you've experienced that connection firsthand. The humidity, the scent of wood and moss, the soft patter of rain. These are the manifestations of fungi at work, weaving the physical and the ephemeral together. Next time it rains, look toward the sky and imagine what's falling. Not just water, but memory. Not just droplets, but the legacy of a million forests breathing. Each raindrop might carry within it a spore, a microscopic story, drifting from one ecosystem to another, ensuring that life continues its conversation between heaven and earth. Through fungi, the atmosphere becomes an echo of the forest, and through rain, the forest reclaims the sky. It is a dialogue written in vapor, repeated endlessly, teaching us once again that there is no separation, only cycles, only continuations, only the quiet understanding that what rises will always, eventually, fall. We tend to think of stone as eternal, cold, unchanging, untouched by time. Yet even the hardest rock eventually softens under the patient hand of life. And the first sculptors of the transformation were not rivers or roots, but fungi. Before trees, before moss, before soil itself, there were fungal threads exploring the bare surfaces of an infant earth. Over 1 billion years ago, when continents were still barren, fungi colonized the planet's rock. They crept through microscopic cracks, dissolving minerals with gentle acids and converting them into the first grains of fertile ground. In this way, fungi became the original gardeners of Earth, preparing a lifeless crust for the green world that would come after. These early fungal pioneers likely partnered with algae to form lichens, symbiotic organisms capable of photosynthesis and nutrient absorption. Together, they were the first true colonizers of land, drawing energy from sunlight and minerals alike. Lichens still exist today, clinging to the sides of cliffs, tundra, and deserts, slowly breaking down the unbreakable, molecule by molecule. The process is astonishing in its simplicity. Fungal cells release organic acids that react with the minerals in rock, silicates, carbonates, and phosphates, liberating essential elements like calcium, iron, and magnesium. What begins as corrosion becomes creation. Over centuries, this microscopic erosion turns to dust. And that dust becomes the first soil, a thin layer of potential where seeds can one day take root. Every mountain you see, every valley, every fertile plain owes its beginning to these unseen chemists. Without fungi, the earth might still be a lifeless shell of stone. It is strange to imagine. The delicate threads we now associate with decay were once the architects of creation. Even now, this slow alchemy continues. On old gravestones, on the walls of abandoned temples, on the faces of statues in ancient ruins, you can find faint gray-green crusts, lichens patiently carving the surface of time. They work so slowly that their progress is invisible to us, but give them a century, and they will etch the stone into powder. Give them 1,000 years, and they will return monuments to the soil they once rose from. Fungi and lichens are engineers of impermanence. They remind us that even the most enduring materials are only moments in the grand sequence of transformation. The same patience that can break a mountain can also build a meadow. Through their labor, fungi make way for life, and in doing so, they weave humility into the architecture of the planet. Scientists studying ancient fossils have found traces of fungal activity in rocks nearly 1 billion years old. Microscopic tunnels and branching filaments preserved in stone reveal where mycelium once grew. It's as though the earth carries its own memory of being shaped, a record written not in words or bones, but in texture and chemistry. These traces tell us that fungi didn't merely appear alongside plants. They paved the way for them. By breaking down rock into minerals and organic matter, they made it possible for plants to gain a foothold, for roots to spread, and for ecosystems to emerge. Even today, fungi continue this work in silence. Beneath forests and grasslands, they release enzymes that dissolve stone fragments, feeding both themselves and the plants they partner with. In caves, they decorate walls with mineral blooms, white, gold, or violet colonies that feed on rock itself. And in volcanic regions, spores are often the first to arrive after an eruption, clinging to cooling lava, beginning again the long process of turning fire into soil. It is a staggering thought that the ground we walk upon is a creation of patience, not the sudden miracle of life, but the slow unfolding of persistence. The soil beneath your feet is not merely dirt. It is the accumulated wisdom of fungi, a library of chemical conversations between stone and life. There's a quiet philosophy in that. That endurance is not defiance, but cooperation. That strength is found not in resisting change, but in guiding it gently, molecule by molecule. Fungi understood this long before we did. They do not fight the mountain. They become its teacher. When rain falls on rock, the water slips into its pores, carrying with it the acids and enzymes of fungal life. Each droplet marks the beginning of erosion, each trickle a note in the long song of transformation. Centuries later, that same rock will crumble, and from the dust, new forests will rise. Perhaps that is the truest meaning of resilience. Not to resist decay, but to shape it into growth. To know that even the hardest surfaces can one day nurture life. To see permanence not as refusal, but as readiness, a willingness to become something new. So when you touch the side of an ancient stone, remember that it too is alive in its own way. That fungi are already there, patient and invisible, writing their slow poetry of renewal across its face. And that every mountain, no matter how eternal it seems, is already dreaming of becoming a forest. Step into a meadow after rain, and you might notice something extraordinary. A perfect circle of mushrooms rising from the grass, each cap evenly spaced, each forming part of a ring so symmetrical it could have been drawn by unseen hands. These are fairy rings, one of nature's most elegant and mysterious designs. For centuries, people believed such circles were portals to another realm. In folklore, they were said to be the footprints of fairies dancing under moonlight, or the remnants of spirits that gathered to sing and vanish before dawn. Villagers were warned never to step inside them, for those who did might become lost in the world of Fae and never return. Science, however, tells another story, one no less magical in its truth. Fairy rings form when a single fungal organism spreads outward underground in a perfect circle. The mushrooms we see are only the fruiting bodies, temporary bursts of life marking the edge of a much larger hidden network called mycelium. As this network grows, it consumes the nutrients at its center and pushes outward in search of new food. The result, over months or years, is a ring, a living geometry expanding through time. What you see in the grass is the visible edge of this slow pulse of life. Each year the circle widens, sometimes by just a few centimeters, sometimes by several feet. Some fairy rings are ancient, decades or even centuries old, their diameters stretching wider than a house. Their history written in rings of greener grass where the fungus enriches the soil. Yes, greener. For along the outer edge of the ring, the fungi release nutrients that feed the roots of plants, especially nitrogen and phosphorus. The result is a ring of lush, dark vegetation, while the inner circle may appear pale or bare where nutrients are depleted. What folklore saw as enchantment is, in truth, a dance of ecology, a conversation between fungi, soil, and grass that leaves patterns like art upon the land. In ancient times, people saw these circles as sacred, symbols of continuity and the cycles of nature. Farmers would mark their edges and watch how they moved year by year, noticing that the rings always grew outward, never inward. They understood, even without words for mycelium or nutrients, that something alive was slowly moving beneath their feet. To stand before one today is to feel that same awe, to recognize the intelligence of pattern written by no hand, guided by no eye. It is growth shaped only by need, precision born from instinct, and the quiet logic of the living earth. Some fairy rings appear in forests, some in meadows, and others on the highlands where soil is thin and weather harsh. They can survive frost and drought, lying dormant until the rain returns. In parts of Europe, entire hillsides are marked by overlapping circles, each one a record of centuries of growth. It is as though the land itself keeps time through the rhythm of fungi. But fairy rings are not the only way fungi shape the landscape. After a forest fire, when the air still smells of smoke and ash, other kinds of mushrooms rise from the scorched earth. They are known as pyrophilous fungi, lovers of fire. While most life flees from flames, these organisms wait patiently beneath the soil, their spores dormant until the heat of fire awakens them. When the blaze has passed and the ground cools, their fruiting bodies emerge in abundance, black morels, ashen caps, and strange honeycombed mushrooms that seem to grow from the very bones of the earth. To the untrained eye, it looks miraculous, life returning to ruin. But this is no miracle, it is design. The chemistry of fire changes the soil, and these fungi thrive precisely in those altered conditions. By breaking down the charred remains of wood and vegetation, they recycle nutrients back into the ecosystem, preparing the ground for new life. Within a few seasons, plants and trees begin to return, their roots nourished by the carbon-rich soil left behind. The forest, once burned to silence, hums again with growth, a rebirth orchestrated in part by mushrooms rising from ashes. Fire-loving fungi are nature's first responders. They arrive where everything else has ended, turning destruction into foundation, grief into regrowth. Their appearance is a lesson in resilience, that even devastation can hold the promise of renewal. Perhaps that's why humans have long felt reverence for these patterns. Rings of life after rain, mushrooms after fire, signs that something eternal moves beneath the surface. To watch fungi reclaim a blackened hillside is to witness time itself healing a wound. And to see a fairy ring in a meadow is to glimpse the hidden mathematics of the planet's breath. In both, there is symmetry and faith, a reminder that nature's cycles are not linear, but circular. Every end becomes a beginning, every decay a preparation for growth. Fungi show us that beauty can emerge from what we fear most: ashes, darkness, endings. Next time you cross a meadow and see a circle of mushrooms, pause for a moment. You are standing on the edge of an ancient pulse, a rhythm written in soil and silence, continuing long after we are gone. That ring is a boundary between what was and what will be, and through it, the earth keeps its promise to renew, to continue, to begin again. Some mushrooms seem to appear overnight, as if conjured by unseen forces during the quiet hours between dusk and dawn. One evening the ground is bare, and by morning it's dotted with fragile towers of color and form. This sudden emergence has long captured the human imagination, inspiring myths of magic, spirits, and transformation. But what truly happens beneath the soil is far more fascinating than any spell. A mushroom is the fruiting body of a much larger being, the mycelium, an underground network that can span entire forests. For most of its life, this network remains invisible, threading through roots and stones, feeding on decaying matter, storing energy like a heartbeat beneath the earth. Then, when conditions align, moisture, temperature, and nutrients, that hidden organism releases its energy upward. Within hours, cells swell with water, expanding at astonishing speed. The result? Mushrooms that seem to bloom out of nothing. It is not growth as we usually imagine it, slow, steady, predictable. It is a kind of eruption of life, a sudden translation of potential into form. In just one night, a mushroom can push through layers of soil and leaves, its cap unfolding like a time lapse of breath. The rain softens the ground, and gravity itself seems to assist in this awakening. In the soft light of morning, the forest looks reborn. To ancient cultures, this mystery held divine meaning. They believed mushrooms were born from thunder, rising from the earth where lightning had struck, a symbol of energy, transformation, and renewal. And though science now offers us biological explanations, the awe remains the same, because even knowing the chemistry, it is hard not to feel wonder when life appears so suddenly, so perfectly formed. The mycelium's ability to respond to subtle environmental cues is one of the most refined forms of intelligence in nature. It can sense humidity, the presence of organic matter, even slight shifts in pH or sunlight filtering through the forest canopy. When the conditions are right, it acts. When they are not, it waits, sometimes for years. There is patience encoded in every thread, a timeless rhythm of pause and renewal that mirrors the earth itself. In this way, fungi embody the art of timing. They do not rush, yet they do not hesitate when the moment comes. Each mushroom is an act of perfect readiness. It rises, releases its spores, and fades, its body returning to the soil, feeding the next generation. The cycle is brief, yet infinite. But the story doesn't end with emergence. For humans, mushrooms have always been more than food or mystery. They have been pigments, medicines, and tools of survival and art. Long before synthetic dyes, people discovered that mushrooms could color cloth in shades of amber, ochre, crimson, and indigo. Dyers foraged for species like Phallus schweinitzi, known as the dyer's polypore, which yields warm golds and deep oranges. Others turned to lichens, boiling them gently to release hues of violet or pink. Each species carried its own palette, a natural archive of the forest translated into color. These dyes were more than decoration. They connected humans to the landscape. A weaver in the highlands might wear a cloak tinted with mushrooms that grew only on her local oaks or pines, literally wrapping herself in the essence of the land. Every thread held a story of rain, soil, and light. Today, artisans are reviving these ancient traditions, embracing the sustainability and beauty of natural pigments. In a world dominated by artificial colors, mushroom dyes remind us that even art can be alive, that the forest itself can paint, given the right hands to guide it. And still, fungi surprise us. Some are not only artists, but hunters. Hidden beneath the soil, certain species weave microscopic traps, delicate snares made of sticky nets or tightening rings. Their prey. Nematodes, tiny worms that wriggle unseen through the dirt. When one touches the trap, it tightens instantly, and the fungus pierces the creature's body, feeding on its nutrients. It is a strange inversion, the still predator, the moving prey, life feeding life in miniature. To imagine this is to realize how dynamic the soil truly is. Beneath every step, invisible dramas unfold. Predators, prey, and recyclers locked in an endless cycle of energy exchange. What seems to us like stillness is in fact a constant pulse of activity. The earth beneath your feet is a vast and living city, and fungi are its engineers, architects, and scavengers. Even in death, mushrooms leave behind structure. Their mycelial networks continue to shape soil texture and retain moisture, allowing seeds to sprout and roots to anchor more easily. Some fungi even act as sponges, absorbing water and releasing it slowly to sustain plants during dry periods. Without them, the soil would crumble, and the rhythm of growth and decay would falter. So when mushrooms rise after the rain, they are not sudden at all. They are the visible expression of years, sometimes decades, of unseen work. They are reminders that progress often happens in silence, and that what appears overnight may have been building forever. If you ever walk through a forest just after a storm, watch the ground closely. You may catch sight of a cap pushing through the moss, its edge trembling under the weight of a raindrop. That moment is the world awakening again, a slow thought made visible, a breath of life translated into form. And as quickly as it came, it will vanish. But its spores will linger, floating into air, into rain, into the future. The cycle continues, unseen, unstoppable, and utterly alive. In the hidden soil beneath our feet, fungi are not just quiet recyclers. They are builders. The structures they create rival the strength of steel, yet remain lighter than wood. Each strand of mycelium is a living thread, growing outward in intricate networks, interlocking, layering, and forming material so strong that it has begun to reshape human invention itself. At first glance, a mushroom seems fragile, a soft cap that bends under a touch. But beneath that fragility lies an architecture of incredible resilience. The microscopic filaments of mycelium branch and fuse, creating a dense matrix that distributes weight and absorbs impact with efficiency few materials can match. When scientists began testing these networks, they found that certain fungal composites could be stronger than steel by weight, and yet completely biodegradable. This discovery has opened a door to a new world of mycelium-based materials. Designers and engineers now grow fungal networks into bricks, furniture, and even architectural panels capable of withstanding heat and fire. Unlike concrete, which scars the planet, or plastic, which refuses to die, mycelium simply returns to the soil when its purpose is complete. In laboratories around the world, walls are being grown instead of built. Mushrooms are cultivated in molds, fed with agricultural waste, husks, sawdust, straw, until they knit together. Once dried, the result is lightweight, durable, and beautifully organic. It breathes, it insulates, it even resists flames, charring instead of burning, releasing no toxic smoke. What once was forest waste becomes living architecture, a collaboration between biology and design. Imagine a future city whose buildings are not constructed, but cultivated. Walls that grow from seed, roofs that heal cracks with humidity, homes that one day return peacefully to the earth. This vision is not science fiction. It is a future seeded by the humble fungus, whose intelligence lies not in motion or speech, but in structure, the patience of form. Fungi have always been innovators. Long before humanity arrived, they were the pioneers of land, the first to turn stone into soil, to prepare the planet for plants and trees. Fossil records reveal that over 400 million years ago, giant fungal organisms called prototaxites rose above the barren landscape. They stood nearly 30 feet tall, massive pillars of organic tissue towering over moss and primitive plants. In that silent, prehistoric world, fungi were the tallest life forms on Earth. These giants fed on decaying matter, drawing nutrients from the lifeless ground and transforming it into fertile substrate. They built the foundation upon which ecosystems could bloom. Without them, forests might never have emerged, and the green world we know could not exist. It's a strange inversion. that what we now see as small and transient was once vast and dominant. But that is the nature of fungi: to adapt, to transform, to withdraw when needed, and to persist in forms unseen until the next era calls. Even today, fungi continue to be the architects of possibility. Their strength, flexibility, and ecological harmony have inspired not just builders, but environmental scientists seeking to heal the planet's scars. Mycoremediation, the process of using fungi to clean toxins, is already being applied to contaminated soils, oil spills, and even plastics. Through the same enzymatic processes that let them digest wood, fungi can break down petroleum, pesticides, and heavy metals, turning poison into nutrient. It is as though nature built within them a universal toolkit, the ability to undo what is harmful and recycle it into life. One species, Pleurotus austriatus, the oyster mushroom, has been shown to digest hydrocarbons found in motor oil. Another, discovered in the Amazon, can eat polyurethane, one of the most persistent plastics ever made. In experiments, these fungi reduced plastic to harmless organic matter in weeks. The implications are profound. Fungi could help clean the planet not through machines or chemicals, but through growth. Slow, deliberate, and natural. It is a reminder that restoration does not always require noise or firepower. Sometimes it requires patience, and an organism that has been quietly doing this work for millions of years. These same traits, strength, adaptability, regeneration, make fungi a key part of future sustainability. From biodegradable packaging to plant-based leather, from water filters to renewable insulation, the potential applications seem limitless. Every invention that begins with, "How do we build sustainably?" may find its answer in a forest floor. When you think of mycelium now, think of it not as decay, but as design, nature's way of shaping strength that knows how to end gracefully. A bridge between the living and the built, the temporary and the eternal. The beauty of fungal architecture lies not only in its utility, but in its philosophy. It does not seek permanence for its own sake. It seeks harmony, balance between creation and return. Each structure, each network, is meant to serve, to shelter, to protect, and then to dissolve, leaving the world richer than before. Perhaps humanity's greatest lesson from fungi is this: that progress should not be measured by what endures, but by what gives back. That we can build without wounding, create without conquering, and grow futures that decompose into beginnings. So the next time you see a mushroom rising from a fallen log, remember that you are looking at the blueprint of resilience, a material that can outlast concrete, outthink machines, and outlive civilizations, because it never stops changing form. It builds, it breaks down, and through both, it sustains the rhythm of life. Before forests cloaked the continents, before flowers or birds existed, there were fungi, silent, patient, and immense. Over 1 billion years ago, long before life found its way onto land, fungal networks were already at work on the ocean floor, breaking down minerals, recycling matter, and preparing the planet for the great greening to come. Fossils reveal their early triumphs, branching filaments fossilized in ancient rock, some nearly 1 billion years old, evidence that fungi were among the first multicellular organisms on Earth. Their task was monumental: to transform a world of stone into a world capable of sustaining life. And they succeeded, slowly, molecule by molecule, weathering rock into soil, turning lifeless crust into living ground. When plants finally evolved in the seas and began to edge toward the land, they did not do so alone. Fungi were already there, waiting, ready to form alliances that would define the future of the planet. These partnerships, known today as mycorrhizal relationships, are among the most important in all of biology. The fungi reached into rock and soil, extracting minerals and nutrients. while the plants offered sugars made through photosynthesis. Together, they built the foundation for terrestrial ecosystems. Without fungi, plants might never have left the oceans. Without plants, Earth might never have become the lush, living sphere we know. The story of life on land begins not with a tree, but with a thread of mycelium, a filament of patience connecting stone to seed. Even now, this partnership endures. Nearly every plant on Earth, from grasses to redwoods, relies on fungal allies. Through these networks, nutrients flow between species and generations. Carbon is locked into the soil, and forests communicate in ways we are only beginning to understand. It is an ancient pact, unbroken for hundreds of millions of years. But fungi's role in the story of life extends beyond Earth. In the past few decades, scientists have discovered that some fungal spores can survive the vacuum of space. In experiments aboard the International Space Station, spores endured cosmic radiation, freezing temperatures, and weightlessness. When brought back to Earth, many were still alive, ready to grow again as if nothing had happened. This astonishing resilience has given rise to a powerful idea, panspermia, the possibility that life could travel between planets, carried by dust, asteroids, or drifting spores. If fungal spores can cross the void and awaken again in new soil, then perhaps life itself is not bound to one world. Perhaps fungi were the first interplanetary travelers, the cosmic couriers of life's potential. It is a humbling thought that the same organism quietly decomposing a log in your backyard might also be capable of surviving the harsh silence of space. That something so delicate, a spore lighter than ash, could carry within it the power to begin life anew on distant worlds. And fungi's cosmic relevance doesn't end with speculation. Their potential is practical. Researchers studying future space missions are exploring how fungal mycelium could be used to build habitats on Mars or the Moon. Instead of constructing metal or concrete structures, astronauts could cultivate walls of mycelium, grown in molds and dried into lightweight, fire-resistant shells. These living structures would require minimal resources, self-repair under the right conditions, and ultimately return to dust without leaving waste behind. This idea, called myco-architecture, is already moving from imagination to experiment. NASA-funded teams have grown prototype domes of fungal material on Earth, testing their strength and radiation shielding. One day, the first home built on another planet might not be made of steel or stone, but of living threads spun by fungi. Beyond technology, this reveals something deeper about life itself. That resilience doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers through the silence of space, carried by a spore so small it could pass unnoticed through your breath. That even across galaxies, the pattern of survival remains the same. To grow where one can, to feed on what is given, and to transform what seems barren into something capable of sustaining life. In that sense, fungi are not just earthly organisms. They are cosmic storytellers, weaving continuity through the fabric of existence, bridging the divide between worlds, reminding us that life is never truly alone. When you gaze at the night sky, remember this: somewhere out there, perhaps drifting among the stars, may be spores, fragments of living memory, waiting for warmth, water, and soil. Waiting, as they always have, for the next beginning. The same threads that shaped our forests may someday thread through alien dust. The same patience that turned rock to soil may one day turn other planets green. In fungi, the story of life finds its most enduring symbol: connection between earth and sky, past and future, silence and creation. They remind us that existence is not a chain of isolated moments, but a web, infinite, invisible, and alive. In the quiet, unseen world beneath the forest, fungi are not only engineers of life, they are its guardians. Through their endless networks, they weave systems that stabilize soil, balance ecosystems, and even regulate the planet's climate. They are the unseen custodians that keep Earth breathing. One of their most vital roles is in the storage of carbon. When trees draw carbon dioxide from the air through photosynthesis, they send much of that captured carbon into the soil through their roots. There, fungi await, ready to receive, to store, and to distribute. Through their mycorrhizal networks, they convert carbon into organic compounds and bind it within their own tissue or within the soil structure. Some of this carbon remains buried for centuries, locked safely underground, preventing it from returning to the atmosphere as greenhouse gas. The idea that mushrooms, humble, fleeting things, could influence global climate might seem extraordinary. Yet this is the truth of our planet's interconnectedness. Every breath, every leaf, every drop of rain belongs to a cycle guided by unseen partnerships. When a leaf falls, fungi decompose it, releasing nutrients and locking away carbon in the process. When a tree dies, fungi inherit its body, not in destruction, but in transformation, turning wood into soil and soil into life again. These processes happen so quietly that we rarely notice, but their scale is staggering. Globally, fungi store billions of tons of carbon, more than all the world's forests combined. It is a task performed without recognition, without reward, just the slow devotion of nature's oldest engineers. Yet fungi's gifts extend beyond climate control. They are also the protectors of life's fragile balance, absorbing toxins, filtering water, and even helping damaged landscapes heal themselves. In regions polluted by industry, certain mushrooms have demonstrated an astonishing ability to absorb heavy metals like lead, cadmium, and mercury from the soil. Through a process known as mycoremediation, fungi draw toxins into their tissues, neutralizing danger and purifying the ground. What seems like decay is actually purification, a natural system cleansing what humanity has poisoned. In abandoned mines, scientists have found mushrooms growing in toxic sludge, their mycelium forming dense mats that capture pollutants like filters. Elsewhere, fungi are being used to clean oil spills, breaking down hydrocarbons, the very molecules that make oil dangerous, into harmless compounds that rejoin the soil's natural chemistry. The process is slow, yes, but it works. And it works without machines, without noise, without further harm. Imagine a world where pollution could be healed by growth instead of destruction, where poisoned rivers are filtered by fungal mats, and barren lands bloom again because mushrooms have quietly done their work. That world already exists. It is simply waiting for us to learn how to cooperate with it. Mycoremediation isn't a dream of the distant future. It is happening now. In the Amazon rainforest, oyster mushrooms have been used to decompose plastic waste. In cities, mycelium-based barriers are being grown to clean wastewater. And in labs, researchers are cultivating fungal species capable of digesting crude oil, reducing entire spills into fertile earth within weeks. Everywhere they appear, fungi are rewriting what we think is possible, turning human failure into ecological renewal. They don't protest, they don't demand. They simply do what they have always done: take what is broken and turn it into the foundation of something new. This quiet genius holds a lesson for us all. When faced with damage, fungi do not retreat. They integrate. They absorb what is harmful, metabolize it, and transform it into something that supports life again. In doing so, they teach us the alchemy of acceptance, that repair does not come from erasing what was, but from transforming it. When you walk through a forest after rain, remember that beneath every footstep lies a world in motion, threads of life interlaced with threads of decay, holding water, air, and carbon in delicate balance. This is not stillness. This is movement too slow for the eye to see. The forest does not rest. It breathes through the fungal web. And through that web, life is continuously recycled, not in circles of despair, but of renewal. Every dead leaf is a promise, every fallen branch a seed of rebirth. Through fungi, the forest never truly ends. In this way, life and death cease to be opposites. They become partners, dancing endlessly beneath the surface, guided by the patient wisdom of fungi. And so, our journey through the hidden kingdom of fungi comes to an end, or rather, returns to its beginning. Because in the story of mushrooms, nothing ever truly ends. Decay becomes creation, silence becomes song, and what disappears beneath the soil will always find its way back to the light. For all their mystery, fungi are the most humble of life forms. They do not demand attention, yet without them, the world would collapse. They break down the fallen and build the future. They clean what is poisoned, nourish what is weak, and connect what is separate. They are, in every sense, the invisible architecture of life. The next time you see a mushroom rising from the forest floor, remember what it represents: a brief, delicate signal from a vast being hidden below. A whisper from an ancient intelligence older than forests, older than mountains, older even than the first roots of trees. Beneath your feet lies a kingdom of connection. Threads of mycelium linking trees, flowers, and ferns into one breathing organism. Scientists call it the wood wide web, but poets might call it something else. The earth dreaming of itself, remembering its own body through a web of light and life. And yet, fungi do more than sustain the world. They inspire it. Their resilience has become the model for how life might thrive in space. Their chemistry heals wounds and forges medicines. Their strength builds cities that will one day return to soil. Their silence reminds us that wisdom often whispers, and that the deepest intelligence is not spoken, but lived. When you breathe, you share air with spores older than history. When you eat bread or drink wine, you share in the quiet labor of fungi transforming sugar into sustenance. When you step into a forest after rain, you are surrounded by their work. The sweetness of decay, the fragrance of renewal, the pulse of time woven into living thread. Fungi remind us that life is not built in straight lines. It spirals, spreads, dissolves, and returns. An endless unfolding where beginnings and endings are one and the same. To understand that is to find peace. So tonight, as this story settles into silence, imagine the unseen web stretching out beneath you. Billions of threads moving through the dark, recycling, repairing, remembering. Each pulse, each signal, each microscopic breath is part of the same vast rhythm that keeps the planet alive. You are not separate from it. You are one of its patterns, a brief blooming in the infinite mycelium of existence. Your thoughts, your body, your breath are part of the same network that connects forest and ocean, mountain and cloud, earth and sky. In the end, the world's oldest truth is also its gentlest. Everything is connected, from the glowing caps in the forest night to the spores drifting high above the clouds. From the dust of the past to the seeds of tomorrow, all are threads in the same design, woven by fungi, held together by patience and time. So rest easy, traveler. Let this knowledge settle softly within you, that even in stillness the earth moves, and even in darkness life glows. Because the world you walk upon is alive in every breath, every heartbeat, every whisper of soil beneath your feet. And when you close your eyes, perhaps you will feel it, the faint hum of the planet's oldest rhythm, a lullaby sung in the language of decay and renewal, of endings and beginnings intertwined. The earth is breathing, and you are breathing with it. Explore the universe within. The cosmos is listening. Every atom remembers light. You are the observer of infinity. Silence carries the sound of stars. Good night, and see you in the next video.